Who shot JR? Who shot Mr. Burns? Who killed Mr. Boddy? Murder mysteries are a staple in entertainment, whether in the form of TV shows, movies, books, or games. If you sat down to a family game night, you're probably familiar with the Clue or Cluedo franchise. The objective of the game was to determine who killed Mr. Boddy out of 6 color-coordinated characters, what weapon they used, and where it happened. You might be familiar with the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo game, but I actually grew up with this FMV or full motion video computer game. Released in 1996, the box for this Clue Mystery Collection boasts of 12 murder mysteries on 3 CD-ROMs. However, that's more than a little misleading. In reality, there are 3 stories with 4 different difficulties or solutions per story. No matter how many times you play a particular story at a particular difficulty, the solution will always be the same. This does limit the replayability of the game, but I usually wait long enough before doing another playthrough so I forget the solutions enough. Although I still remember one solution back from when I was a kid. Amazing. I'll forget the answers during a test, but those Sega Genesis passwords and clue solutions will stay with me forever. In this video, I take a look at each of the mysteries in novice mode, so if you are so inclined to get these games for yourself, you still have the higher levels to solve. There is also the option to play this game with multiple people, but you can also play it by yourself, which is what I did. More glory for me.
Glory to you and your house.
Now, there are a couple things I need to get out of the way before talking about this collection. While I would still consider this a review, this is one of those games that might be a bit hard to recommend. Oh, don't get me wrong, it's nothing to do with the quality of the games. The problem with these games is that they're incredibly difficult to get working on modern PCs. Never mind that attempting to run these games on even something like Windows XP results in a cannot divide by 0 error. I've also run into game freezes, fatal errors, and even the blue screen of death running the game on a Windows 95 virtual machine. Luckily, I managed to get enough footage to make a video, but because of the difficult nature of getting this game to work, I opted to go for full spoiler mode in this video. Consider this your spoiler warning. With that out of the way, let's start sleuthing. The collection comes with 3 discs, one for each story: Blackmail, The Deadly Patent, and The Road to Damascus. Each story features FMV videos of actors in the roles of the various Clue characters. Each story, of course, involves Mr. Boddy getting killed, and you have to determine who done it, what done it, and where done it. However, this brings up so many questions. Mr. Boddy is killed in each one, so are these alternate realities where he's fated to die at the hands of his supposed friends? How many timelines exist? And what happens if Mr. Boddy survives? Does time cease to exist? Am I thinking too much into this? Probably, but the years of sci-fi have taken its toll on me, so here we are.
Indubitably, my good woman.
The gameplay in all 3 games is basically the same. You move around Arlington Hall, Mr. Boddy's estate house, by clicking which direction you want to go. In moving, you are treated to these 3D rendered hallways, which by the way don't even look like they belong to the house shown in the videos, but whatever. You enter the familiar rooms of the board game: the hall, the dining room, the library, the lounge, the billiard room, the kitchen, the conservatory, the study, and the ballroom. And you scan the rooms for clues, which conveniently light up. This might as well be an episode of Blue's Clues, the clues are so obvious.
We are gonna play Blue's Clues, 'cause it's really fun, yeah!
A bloodstain on the chair.
Some of these clues are helpful to your case, like weapons, evidence like bloodstains that the murder took place in that room, while others are just there to further the story, like telegrams or a broken beer bottle. You can also click on the clock in each of the rooms to watch a scene that took place in that room before Mr. Boddy was murdered. And honestly, this is my favorite part, and these clips could probably be edited together into a movie.
I just wanted to make absolutely certain that we understood each other. It's rather complex, isn't it?
You may also find some suspects in a room. You can click on them to question them and piece together whether or not they're lying. Listen to their testimony, ask them about certain weapons, and even ask for a summary of their testimony. which they may or may not be thrilled about.
I really wish you people would concentrate.
Look here, I've told you all of this once.
I hope this is the last time I'll have to repeat any of this.
Now I know what you're thinking. There's so much information. I need to write all this down. Well, put away your notebooks because the game's got you covered. In the game's notebook, there's a quick summary of every clue, every testimony, every movie you viewed, and all the relevant notes. You can even make marks in the notebook, eliminating and highlighting the smoking guns, the deadly dining rooms, the suspects. Once you have all the relevant pieces of information, ring for the butler and make your accusation. You have a limited amount of accusations to make, represented by bells, and you can even lose them if you take a secret passage and get a hint from the butler. The higher the difficulty, the less bells you get. Luckily in novice mode, we have 3 bells. With that, let's get on with the mysteries, shall we?
Well, I couldn't possibly solve this mystery. Can you?
Let's start with the first of the stories. Blackmail! Blackmail starts out with an introduction from the estate's butler, who isn't seen in any of the movie clips for the mysteries, but is there to tell you what's going on. You may remember him as this guy from Downton Abbey.
My lord, will you give me a good reference?
He gives you a little background on what's going on and talks about Mr. Boddy.
He knew all about the 7 deadly sins, especially greed. Then he was ruthless.
Well, Mr. Boddy sounds like a fine, upstanding fellow. In Blackmail, Mr. Boddy convinced all his friends, and Mrs. White for some reason, to invest in a brewing company that was going bankrupt. He collects a nice commission, and everyone else loses their money. You know, Mr. Boddy would make a wonderful Ferengi.
Let the buyer beware.
We walk into Arlington Hall and Gah! The music in this collection is a major failure. Don't get me wrong, the theme song is great and even the movie music isn't bad. It's the music that plays during the game, however, that's littered with high pitches or nauseating bass tones. The music is supposed to give a sense of dread and mystery, but I just want to turn it off. Unfortunately, there is no option to turn the music off, so I just have to suffer through it. The things I do for you people. But while we're here, let's ask around about what happened.
I don't know who killed Boddy, but I suspect that there was more than one attempt.
Well, Mrs. White seems like a legit innocent victim in all this.
You said that Mr. Boddy practically guaranteed us a big return on the shares.
Yes, I know. But Mrs. White, that brewery's almost bankrupt.
She's just a sassy old lady who keeps up Mr. Boddy's house.
So you can do your own damn dirty work.
Or maybe not. But she does come across as a legit victim in all this. She lost her money to a bad investment in a brewery. She's not really involved in anything illegal like some of the other characters. But she, like everyone else in this story, had reason to kill Boddy. In fact, Mrs. White was nearly killed herself, almost tripping over a rope at the top of the stairs.
Rope? Presumably you mean the sort that you hang yourself with.
Lady, what the hell? Well, as it turns out, Mr. Green was the one who tied the rope at the top of the steps.
Not very nice of me, was it?
Oh, Mr. Green, you little stinker, you. Apparently, he encouraged everyone to invest in the failing brewery while Mr. Boddy took a nice commission, and he wanted to convince Mr. Boddy to do the right thing, but this is how he went about it.
I don't really think I wanted to kill Boddy. I just wanted to frighten the old boy. It wasn't the cleverest of moves, was it?
I mean, that's gotta be illegal, right? That counts as attempted murder, right? Well, Mr. Green is a piece of work anyway. What is with these people? But the real drama involves the two-timing Colonel Mustard, Mr. Boddy's sexy niece Miss Scarlet, and the Dowager Mrs. Peacock, who is closer to his age, no doubt. Mrs. Peacock doesn't seem to know anything about this, but Miss Scarlet sure does. In fact, it seems like this is an open secret in this house, and Mrs. Peacock just doesn't know about it.
He seems to spend half of his time in quiet corners with Miss Scarlet, and the other half with Mrs. Peacock.
The two women obviously hate each other.
About me and Michael. You know nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing.
Oh, nice poker face there, Miss Scarlet.
I never.
But this This raises a few questions. Mr. Boddy is blackmailing the Colonel for making goo-goo eyes at Miss Scarlet, but meanwhile the Colonel is dating a Mrs. Peacock? And just where is Mr. Peacock?
Oh, hello, Mrs. Peacock. Can I help you? Yes? She wants to know if Captain Peacock got back safely from his conference in Birmingham. Sales conference in Birmingham?
Meanwhile, Miss Scarlet is totally fine with being a homewrecker of a homewrecker.
Don't you think I have any say in my own affairs?
Oh, really? How many you having?
Mrs. Peacock is an entirely innocent party.
And just where is Mr. Peacock again? Well, let's ask Colonel Mustard about all this. After all, he was seen with
a large, vicious-looking knife in his hands.
Oh, I used it to cut the rope that some clown had tied across the top of the stairs. It nearly killed Mrs. White. The rope, I mean.
Yeah, that makes sense, and Mr. Green was a little responsible for that. Well, I'll just check out the library and, well, what have we got here?
Gun. Appears to have been fired 4 times. Fingerprints, Mrs. Peacock, Mrs. White, and Colonel Mustard.
Let's see, we can account for 2 of those shots in the ballroom. And we did see Mrs. Peacock with the gun, and she checks out with Miss Scarlet as an alibi. You know, for 2 women that hate each other, they spend an awful lot of time together, I'm just saying. So, Colonel Mustard, what do you know about this gun?
No, I haven't seen any gun.
Oh, really? Then why are your fingerprints all over it? Oh, Colonel Mustard, you and your level of British cheese.
I'd heard from an old school chum in the city. I think the good professor could well be your man.
You dare, Boddy!
Couldn't save you from the law. But where did it happen? And isn't it strange we don't have access to the report of where Mr. Boddy was found? We have to piece together where it happened? What kind of an investigation is this?
Shall I continue? That will not be necessary.
Well, anyway, I had initially thought it was in the library, but...
Good work, but the wrong conclusion.
So, not the library. Well, what did I miss?
A little more investigation could pay dividends.
Well, back in the hall, yes, the very first room I was in, there was a
bullet embedded in the wall. A bullet embedded in the wall. A bullet embedded in the wall.
Now I think I solved the case. Once you're in the room where it happened, ring the bell to call the butler, make your accusation, and...
Well done, you've got everything right.
And so the endgame sequence plays and gives you a brief summary about what happened.
Colonel Mustard had more to lose than money. If he didn't silence Mr. Boddy, then all his rather sordid secrets would be revealed, and Mrs. Peacock would find out about his relationship with Miss Scarlet. He told the Colonel that he was an old fool, and then he walked out, still laughing. He caught up with him in the hall. He was in such a panic that he never thought to remove his fingerprints.
Well, it would have been nice to see an FMV video of this solution rather than pictures, but oh well. Either way, we got you, Colonel!
Wouldn't do to be caught snooping.
And now for the deadly patent. In another reality, or a timeline if you will, we find Mr. Boddy alive and well. Until yet another unlucky fate.
It is said that certain precious stones are lucky, but maybe rubies are not so lucky.
Once again, Mr. Boddy is up to his old schemes, this time stealing an artificial ruby recipe from Professor Plum to become even more filthy, stinkin' rich. And literally challenges everyone to murder him.
Or perhaps you might consider a more extreme solution.
Clearly someone took him up on his challenge, and we're back again at Arlington Hall. This time around, of course, the clues are different. Where there was a bullet hole in the hall in the last story, the walls are quite nicely plastered. No crime in the hall this time. So let's walk on over to the dining room instead, and hello! Note the half-eaten plate of cheese on the table and the totally realistic bloodstain on the chair. The movie in the dining room reveals Professor Plum and Mrs. White conspiring.
Well, why don't you get it back? That way you could prove that the formula was yours.
He's got it locked away in the study.
Oh, come on, Professor. What are you, a man or a mouse? Brain him if he won't listen. And if you don't, I probably will.
Well, Mrs. White's violent tendencies make an appearance.
I did suggest one or two things that he could do, but I hope I didn't give him the wrong impression.
But just what other impression did you expect he would have from that? Plum seems like a truly innocent victim here, as opposed to Mrs. White.
I hated that man.
I have always hated that man. So you can do your own damn dirty work. I know where Mr. Boddy put the rubies when Professor Plum gave them to him. He used to call them his prototypes. I shall choose the time when it's right to use it.
After all, it was his recipe that was stolen. He even cries over spilt rubies. We have the secret lovers of Colonel Mustard and Miss Scarlet. Or not, I guess? Miss Scarlet has her eyes set on Mr. Green this time around, and they are set to be married. The strong, always level-headed Mr. Green.
He couldn't survive in jail, Colonel.
You know what? Maybe they're perfect for each other. But if Miss Scarlet is marrying Mr. Green, surely the Colonel can have his romance with Mrs. Peacock.
Mr. Boddy was a very hard man. I thought that I had a special relationship with him, but I was wrong.
Anyways, Mrs. Peacock's family business will be in jeopardy if Mr. Boddy releases his artificial rubies into the market.
And I'm not about to let that happen, I can assure you.
I gotta say, I love the actors in this game. Are they stereotypes? Absolutely. But they're just so fun to watch. Hold up! Was she carrying that wrench the entire time? Well, I know Mrs. Peacock didn't do it. She has an alibi and the game isn't that obvious. So I guess she's fine. But don't think I didn't see you eyeing that rope there, Peacock.
Had I seen one, no doubt I would have been tempted to use it.
Let's head over into the library, and the gun in the library again? It literally moved 2 feet from the last time? Hey, can I copy your homework? Okay, but just change it enough so it doesn't look like it copied. Finally, we run into the young lovers in the lounge, lounging around. Miss Scarlet is more than a little willing to cover for Mr. Green. She comes across like one of those crazy girlfriends, you know, the kind, I would do anything for you.
I said I'd do anything for you. Just tell me what to do.
I would do anything for Jonathan.
Alright, lady, you do you. Alright, Mr. Greensleeves, what have you got for me?
That's why I was so horrified when I discovered that Mrs. White had a piece of evidence which could blow the whole thing wide open. I think she told me because she trusted me.
Oh, sure. Now, about this gun.
No, I haven't seen a gun.
Oh, really? Then why are your fingerprints all over this gun?
Gun recently fired. Fingerprints, Mr. Green and Colonel Mustard.
Well, I think we have enough.
That's green.
It is green.
Let's go make the accusation and...
Congratulations, you've got it all right.
Mr. Green was a fool to trust Mr. Boddy, and he knew it.
You must think me a fool to make your lies so transparent.
And he found him in the dining room, still toying with the cheese, a glass of good port in his hand. He disposed of the gun by hiding it in the library, getting away as fast as he could. But he never thought about wiping it clean of incriminating fingerprints.
It wasn't the cleverest of moves, was it?
Well, looks like Colonel Mustard has a new cellmate. They can reminisce over Miss Scarlet.
I just wanted to make absolutely certain that we understood each other. It's rather complex, isn't it?
And now, the last mystery.
Road to Damascus.
After a near-fatal car accident, yes, I'm still a little bitter over that Season 3 finale for Downton Abbey, Mr. Boddy finds religion and plans on joining a monastery where he must take a vow of silence. He decides to give the brothers of his new order all his worldly possessions, And here is where we see how terrible his friends truly are. Are they happy that Mr. Boddy turned over a new leaf? Are they happy that he's finally seen the error of his greedy ways and has finally seen the light?
Have you seen the light? Yes! Yes! Jesus H. goddamn Christ! I have seen the light!
No, because they get nothing.
Why are you doing this to me? Why are you ruining my life?
Jeez, Mr. Boddy needs to get better friends. Preferably ones that won't kill him. But alas, here we are again. So before the brothers could get their hands on Mr. Boddy's antiques, Professor Plum and Mrs. White have opened up an eBay account and have been selling off Mr. Boddy's stuff.
I didn't take that much.
Well, it won't look like that when Mr. Green starts to talk, will it? And they're going to blame you. Because I'm just a little old lady who's been led astray by a wicked con man.
So, yeah, Mrs. White is truly evil in this one.
Later on, when he wanted a hammer, I remembered the pipe and I thought maybe that would do.
Okay. There's a small subplot of Mrs. White being electrocuted by wires set up by Miss Scarlet in the dining room, and honestly, it doesn't really matter all that much.
Oh my God, it's Mrs. White!
Why exactly did Miss Scarlet rig the safe like that? That is an excellent question. She doesn't really address it or why she's casually sashaying around with a rope. Oh, don't mind me, I'm just walking around with a rope. Weirdly enough, Miss Scarlet isn't dating anyone this time around, but she tries to use her feminine wiles to get Colonel Mustard to do something about Mr. Boddy. And in other news, Mrs. Peacock and Miss Scarlet still hate each other. What I can appreciate in this story is the red herrings that pop up and the fact that the solution isn't so direct as...
Gun recently fired. Fingerprints, Mr. Green, and Colonel Mustard.
No, I haven't seen a gun.
You're led to believe that the knife is involved. After all, it has Mr. Boddy's blood on it. However, Mrs. Peacock explains that she attempted to kill Mr. Boddy and he wrestled the knife away from her and...
It was all so stupid.
But I found the solution took a little more thought in this mystery. See, if you head over to the library, you'll notice the upside-down books on the shelf. Little odd that only Mrs. White's fingerprints are on the books, but, oh, whatever. These are not reading people. Well, whatever, I'll just head over to the kitchen for a cup of tea and... Wiped up blood and coffee in the wastebasket? And not to mention the large...
Small fragments of smashed cup.
Like, how does anyone miss this? But wait a minute. Colonel Mustard said Mr. Boddy was going to the kitchen for a...
Tea from Mrs. White.
Clearly it's Mustard and not the...
Little old lady who's been led astray by a wicked con man.
Oh, both Mr. Green and Professor Plum can confirm Colonel Mustard was with them when Mr. Boddy was killed. Well, what have we here? Fingerprints on Mr. Boddy's bullet box? Mrs. White's? Well, I don't want to jump to any conclusions because she's just a...
Little old lady who's been led astray by a wicked con man.
So I hid the weapon. The unfortunate thing is that I'm fairly certain Mrs. White saw me.
Where did we find that gun again? Billiard room, eh? That's not where it should have been. Okay, Mrs. White, you have some explaining to do.
These men are all a bit pathetic, you know.
Yeah, but how do you explain the gun?
I saw someone in the library, and I'm not saying who, pulling some books out of the bookcase.
Yeah, but what about your fingerprints on the gun?
I was with Colonel Mustard in the lounge when it happened.
Huh.
And this is your accusation? You think the murderer was Mrs. White, in the kitchen, with the gun?
Congratulations, you've got it all right.
Here's what happened.
But only Mrs. White had the guts to do anything about it. When she pulled them out, she found the gun lying there. But Mrs. White had put the books back, upside down. She waited until the right moment, and then she drew the gun. But she was in such a hurry that she missed a few fragments of the cup.
And there you have it. That's how Mr. Boddy met his fate.
And we've sent a decorated colonel, a little old lady, and, Mr. Green, to the slammer. But now our timelines converge and the stories are over. So let's talk about the verdict. In order to keep my reviews more consistent, I'm introducing a standardized grading rubric. I will review games on a 5-point scale in various areas: game controls, appearance and ambiance, difficulty, walkthrough recommendation, and replayability before giving a final grade and a Waz recommendation. My final recommendation may or may not overrule the final grade, so if something gets a low grade, I may still recommend it anyway, but I digress. The game's controls are fine for the time the game was released. They solely rely on the mouse for gameplay, which is fine, but keyboard commands would have been nice as well. But they're easy to learn and self-explanatory. 4 out of 5. The appearance is eerie and dreary, which fits with the overall tone of the games. The user interface is pretty self-explanatory. Click on the notebook to bring it up, click on the characters to question them, click on the glowing clues to examine them. However, I do have to take some points off in a couple of places. While the music attempted to make the atmosphere unnerving and mysterious, it's actually quite painful. Even dogs are listening to these tunes. You can also only access the notebook while you're in the rooms, which makes saving a little difficult. 3 out of 5. Now, I'm not a big murder mystery fan, but I found the puzzles and clues easy enough to figure out, even with the higher difficulties. That being said, it still requires some gray cells to come to the right conclusions. It's the right amount of difficulty, so 5 out of 5. And that's of course in reference to the quality of the difficulty, not the actual difficulty itself. The actual difficulty itself, I would say, is not too easy, but not too hard. It's just right. And because the difficulty isn't too hard, you don't need a walkthrough for this game at all. 5 out of 5. Now, the replayability. I've said before that the solutions don't change between playthroughs. Each story on a particular difficulty is the same no matter what. Because of that, the replayability is low. Though I still come back to these games after a while, once I forget the solutions, that is. 1 out of 5. That leaves this game with an 18 points out of 25, or a 72% in the C range. The grade seems a little low to me because I had a lot of fun with these games, even if the replayability is low. The actors are cheesy, sure, but it's an endearing form of cheese. They aren't exactly well-known actors, although I looked at Joan Sims, who plays Mrs. White's IMDb page, and she seems to have had a nice acting career. And Angus McInnes, who plays Mr. Boddy, was in Star Wars as this guy, so there's that. I don't think this was a very popular game, so chances of it showing up on Steam or GOG are low. So the only way to play it is by acquiring the discs for yourself and tear your hair out trying to get it to work on a Windows 95 virtual machine or a physical older computer. But if you don't have an older PC readily available, there's good news for you. There are even more clue mysteries on the Philips CDI console system. Oh.
It's all a game to him, isn't it?
As always, thanks for watching this video as I solved who killed Mr. Boddy. And since you're already here, why not give this video a like and hit the subscribe button? And why not leave a comment? Is there anyone out there who played this clue collection? Do you think FMV is an underrated art form? What are some of your fondest clue memories? Again, thanks for watching, and until next time...
The game is afoot.